Pastor Ed here with Daily Devotions for Wednesday, March the 15th, 2023. Continue our look this morning at the parable of the wedding banquet. That was the gospel reading this past Sunday. We're going to spend the whole week looking at it. We looked at the first verse yesterday, or first two verses. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding banquet for his son, and how that imagery throughout the Bible is one of the few and certainly the best image or analogy we have for what heaven will be like. We're going to pick up the reading in verse 3 and take it through verse 8 today. It reads like this. He sent his slaves, again, the king who gave the wedding banquet, he sent his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet, but they would not come. Again, he sent other slaves, saying, tell those who've been invited, look, I've prepared my dinner, my oxen, my fat calves have been slaughtered, everything is ready, come to the wedding banquet. But they made light of it and went away, one to his farm, another to his business, while the rest seized his slaves, mistreated them, and killed them. The king was enraged. He sent his troops, destroyed those murderers, burned their city, and he said to his slaves, the wedding is ready, but those invited were not worthy. Ruth-Anna Metzger, a professional singer, tells a story that illustrates the importance of responding to the invitation. Several years ago, she was asked to sing at the wedding of a very wealthy man. And according to the invitation, the reception would be held on the top two floors of Seattle's Columbia Tower, the Northwest's tallest skyscraper. She and her husband Roy were excited about attending. And at the reception, waiters in tuxedos offered luscious hors d'oeuvres and fancy foods. The bride and groom approached a beautiful glass and brass staircase that led to the top floor, and someone ceremoniously cut a satin ribbon draped across the bottom of the stairs, and they announced the wedding feast was about to begin. Bride and groom ascended the stairs, followed by their guests. And at the top of the stairs, the maitre d' with a bound book greeted the guests outside the doors. May I have your name, please? I'm Ruth-Ann Metzger, and this is my husband, Roy. He searched the M's. I'm not finding it. Would you spell it, please? Ruth-Ann spelled the name slowly, but after searching the book, the maitre d' looked up and said, I'm sorry, but your name isn't here. There must be some mistake, Ruth-Ann replied. I'm the singer. I sang for the wedding ceremony. And the gentleman answered, it doesn't matter who you are or what you did. Without your name in the book, you cannot attend the banquet. He motioned to a waiter and said, show these people to the service elevator, please. And the Metzgers followed the waiter past the beautifully decorated tables laden with shrimp and whole smoked salmon and magnificent carved ice sculptures. Adjacent to the banquet area, an orchestra was prepared to perform, the musicians all dressed in dazzling white tuxedos. And the waiter led Ruth-Anna and Roy to the service elevator and ushered them in and pushed G for the parking garage. After locating their car and driving several miles in silence, Roy reached over and put his hand on Ruth-Anna's arm. Sweetheart, what happened? When the invitation arrived, she said, I was busy. I never bothered to RSVP. Besides, I was the singer. I surely could go to the reception without returning the RSVP. Ruth-Anna started to cry, not only because she had missed the most lavish banquet that she'd ever been invited to, but also because she happened to get a small taste of what it will be like someday for people as they stand before God, having not accepted his gracious invitation to the wedding banquet of his son. The well-known salesman and motivational speaker Zig Ziglar once said that he invited a friend to go to church with him. The man answered, well, I'd like to go, but the church is so full of hypocrites, he said. And Ziegler replied, that's okay. There's always room for one more. The invitation. A fellow by the name of Jason Cole wrote, over the past few months, Stephanie and I, referring to his wife-to-be, I'm assuming, have had to do much planning for our wedding. We picked out tuxedos. She picked out her dress and the bridesmaids' dresses. We had to determine who was going to be in the wedding, and the list goes on and on and on. There's so many things involved in planning a wedding, he said. As I near the date in which I'll be married, I've learned many things about weddings. There are many exciting times in planning a wedding, but they're probably more stressful times. There's a lot of work involved, a lot of time-consuming work. One of the worst parts about planning a wedding, he said, is preparing the guest list. You have to sit down and think all the people you wish to invite. It's so tedious to prepare the invitations and address them and get them ready to be mailed. The invitations, he concludes, are not the most fun part of planning the wedding. However, we know that God is planning for a wedding too. God has prepared an invitation list as well. Moreover, it is not the worst part of the planning for God, but clearly the best part of planning for the wedding banquet that will be heaven. We'll continue our look at the parable of the wedding banquet tomorrow. Hope you can join us, and we'll continue the story. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.